All right, y'all ready? Normally, I don't record y'all's class, but I forgot to record third yesterday. None of your faces are in it, but if you answer a question, your voice will be in it, and it's okay. They barely can hear you anyways. But my fourth and sixth are horrible, like horribly loud to record, so so that's why I assumed this out. Okay, so today, we're gonna do factoring. Okay, you already learned how to do this once. Okay, but we're gonna review 3 types of factoring today. Okay, and the first one is GCF. You have a big chart on the front that I'm not gonna really spend much time on today because it's not helpful till you know what factoring is, okay? So let's take a look at GCF. Does anyone remember what that stands for? Okay, very good. Greatest common factor is correct. So I'm gonna write that up here at the top. Okay, for greatest common factor, you're looking for what every term can divide by that they have in common. Okay, so for example, and it could be a number, it could be a letter, or it could be both. So on number 1, is there a number that the 2 and the 8 can both divide by? Okay, are they both even?
Yes.
Yes, so that I know I can divide out a 2. Okay, and then you'll notice that they also both have an X in common. So that means that I can divide by a 2 and an X. When you divide the 2X, you're gonna put it outside of a parentheses. And then you're just gonna put what would be left over on the inside, okay? So I had a 2X squared and I divided by 2X. What's 2 divided by 2? 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then if I had an X squared, but I divide an X out, now it's just a regular X. Okay, now we're gonna go to our minus 8X. I had a minus 8, I divided by 2. What number is that gonna give me? Minus 4. And then I had an X, but if I divide it by an X, then now we don't have one there anymore, okay? All right, let's look at number 2. I have an 8 and a 4. Okay, what number can those both divide by? Okay, very good. Now, in the other class, some of them had said 2. Remember, these can both divide by 2, but you want the greatest thing they can both divide by. So that's how come I'm gonna pick 4 instead of 2. You want the biggest thing that they can divide by, okay? So we're gonna divide by 4, then I have an X4 and an X7, then I can only take out X6. The reason why is that you can't take out 7 X's or else this one's not gonna have enough. Okay, put that on the outside. So 4X4 parentheses. And then we're gonna put whatever's left over. 8 divided by 4, what's my number? 2, and how many X's left over? For that one, it would be none, because I had 4 and I took all 4 out. Okay, what about my plus 4? 4 divided by 4 is now 1. How many X's left over? Would be 3. Okay, because I had 7, but if I pull 4 to the outside, then I'd only have 3 left. Okay? All right, go to number 3. Okay, number 3, I have a 6 and a 15. What number can those both divide by? 3, and then I can only take out the smallest number of X's, so even though the first term has an X5, if the second term has an X1, I can only take out an X1. Remember, your GCF goes to the front. And then you're only gonna put what's left over in the parentheses. So I had a 6, 6 divided by 3 puts what here? That's 2X, and then how many X's? I had an X5, so if I divide 1 out, now that's an X4, that's correct. Okay, then for my minus 15, divide that by 3, what number is that now? Okay, negative 5. Will I have an X left over there? No, because I only had 1 and I took it out. All right, do we remember how to GCF? All right, let's go to trinomials. Okay, trinomials is where you're gonna have an AX squared plus BX plus C. Okay, in order for you to have a trinomial, you have to have three pieces. You'll have an x squared, you'll have a regular x, and then you'll have a number by itself. Okay, let me remind you how to do this. Okay, first one, label your ABC. Now, A is the number that goes in front of the x squared. It's not the x squared itself. So if there's not a number here, what can I put there? Okay, a 1 is correct. Okay, then set up a little x for me over here to the side. Okay, I want you to put AC at the top and B at the bottom. So think like your air conditioner is up in the attic and B is your basement. To find your AC, you're going to multiply the A number with the C number. So my A number is a 1, my C number is a 28. What's 1 times 28? Positive 28. Okay, then you are going to list all of the possible ways that you can times to 28. We're going to always start with 1 and then just count our way up. So 1 times what will give me 28? Okay, good. 2 times what will give me 28? Okay, 3 times what? 3 won't go. Okay, 4 times what? Huh? 7. Okay, then I go to 5. Will 5 go into 28? No, 6 won't. And then my next number would be 7, which means I'm looping around to the other side. That's where you can stop looking for partners. Okay, if the number at the top of your chart is positive, you want to choose the pair that's going to add to your B. What is my B from my equation? Okay, it's an 11. Then I want to choose numbers that are going to add to my basement number, which is 11. So looking at your partners, which of those are going to add to 11? 4 and 7. If your A is a 1, you're done. Is my A a 1? Then I'm done. I'm ready to write my factors. It's going to be an x plus 4 and an x plus 7. Okay, we will do examples where your A is not a 1, but for the first ones, it'll be a 1 for those. All right, take a look at number 5. Label your ABC. So A, B, C. My A is missing. That means it's what number? A 1. Then I'm going to do A times C, put it at the top of my X. Remember, air conditioner up top, basement on bottom. 1 times 12 is 12. And then I want to list all the factors of 12. Now, for these first few numbers, your AC number is pretty small. Okay, but in your calculator, will you push y equals? And I'm going to show you how to pull this list up where you don't have to like come up with it yourself. So whatever your AC number is, so for example, here it's a 12, then I just want you to put 12 divide x. 12 divide x. And then if you go into second graph, it'll have the list populated there for you so that you don't have to come up with it yourself. So whatever your AC number is, divide it by x in your y equals. And then when you hit second graph, you're going to skip anything that has a decimal. So for example, here I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6. Next one is 3 and 4. And then what comes after 3 and 4? 4 and 3, but that's a repeat. What'd you say? 6. Oh, yep, 6 and 2, yep. Okay, but remember, as soon as you get to your first one where it's the same pair again, that's where you can stop. Okay, now I want numbers that add to my basement number, which is what? 7. So which of those are going to add to give me a 7? 3 and 4. Is my A a 1? I'm done. Then it's going to be x plus 3, x plus 4. Okay, go down to number 6. ABC. Air conditioner goes at the top, basement goes at the bottom. Multiply your A and your C, put that number at the top of your chart. Okay, what number should I be putting at the top of my chart? Okay, -20. Okay, in your calculator to generate the list though, I want you to ignore the negative. Just do 20 divide X. Okay, because we really just need the numbers. We don't care about the negative right now. So second graph. 1 and 20 is my first partner. 2 and 10. When I look at 3, do you notice that 3's partners are decimals? Okay, we don't include that. We don't want any decimals, just whole numbers. 4 and 5. And then my next partner is 5 and 4. As soon as you hit your first repeat, you're done with your list. Okay, now, on the other ones, I was adding because my top number was positive. For this chart, your top number is what? Negative. That means we want to subtract to get the B. So which of these numbers is going to subtract to my B, which is 8? 10 and 2, very good. Now, when you look at your B, do you see how we want it to be a -8 when we subtract? If you want to get a minus B, you need to make sure that you put your minus on the bigger of the two numbers. So if I do 10 minus 2, that's 8 positive. We want 8 negative, then we need to put the negative on the larger side. Okay, so I'm going to put my negative over here. From there, is your A a 1 and you're done? Then write your factors. So it'll be an X with a +2 and an X with a -10. Questions on that? Okay, go ahead and set up your AC chart for number 7. Okay, you'll notice that this one is not an A1, you're done, but I want you to get it all the way to where you have your chart. Okay, so I'll give you a second to do that. So label your A, B, C, times your A and your C together, come up with your numbers. Okay, and then if your B doesn't have a number. Okay, if your B doesn't have a number in that spot, that means it needs to be what number? A 1, very good. Okay, so A, B, C, can you tell me the number at the top of your chart? -12 is correct. Which means I have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Now notice that this one up here was also a 12, so I just copied those numbers, but you could have typed it in again. Okay, but this time I'm not adding, I'm subtracting because my 12 is negative. What do I want it to subtract to be? A 1. So which of those minus to 1? Okay, now I have to choose which one I put the minus on. If I put it on the bigger number, my B is going to come out negative. Is that what I want? Then I'm going to put it on the 3 side. Okay, so write your factors. You're going to have an X minus 3 and an X plus 4. If my A is a 1, I'm done. Is it? No. What's your A this time? It's a 2. You're going to take that number and divide by 2 on both of these. Okay, you only have to do this step if your A is not a 1 and you're done. Okay. Now, at this step, you are either going to divide or slide. Let me show you how it works. Will 3 divide by 2? Then I'm going to slide it to the front with the X. So it's going to slide up here, and now it's 2X minus 3. My 4, however, can divide by 2. What is 4 divided by 2? Then that's going to be an X plus 2. Okay, so we're going to call that divide and slide, but you're doing one or the other. Okay, if it can't divide, we're going to slide it. Okay, versus my second parenthesis, since it was a 4, it could divide by 2, so we divided. Make sense? All right, turn the page. All right, go ahead and let's do number 8. Okay, so label your ABC, set up your chart. Okay, remember AC is A times C. So my A is a 2, my C is a 3. What's 2 times 3? 6. Only ways to times to get to 6 are 1 times 6, or what else? 2 times 3. The top of my chart is a positive, so I know I'm going to be adding to B what number? My basement number is a 5. So then I'm going to pick out of those choices which ones will add to 5. 2 and 3. Then I'm going to do x plus 2 and x plus 3. And then if my A is a 1, I'm done. Is my A a 1? No. What's my A? 2. Then I have to divide or slide with the 2. So for my first one, it was already a plus 2 divided by 2. What is that now? That's an x plus 1. And then for my second one, 3 can't divide by 2, so I'm going to slide it. So it'll be a 2x plus 3. Does that make sense? All right, we're just going to do 2 more off this page. We're going to go down to the next row. Okay, look at the problems in the next row, 10 and 11. Okay, and tell me what's different about these compared to the one we just did.
That's greatest common factor.
Very good. They have a number that all of your A, B, and C can divide by. So at the top of this row, I want you to put, you're always going to GCF first, then factor. Okay, GCF always comes first if there is one. Now, if you don't have a GCF, then obviously you can go straight into your AC chart. So let's take a look at number 10. What number can every A, B, and C divide by in number 10? Okay, they can all divide by 2, but I want you to try to think of something bigger than 2. They can all divide by 4. And remember, we want to pick the biggest thing. So even if they can all divide by 2, we're going to GCF and divide by 4. So my 4x squared divided by 4 is now a 1x squared. My minus 36, if I divide it by 4, gives me what in the middle? I think 9, yeah. And then 56 divided by 4? 14. Okay, from there, label your ABC, set up your chart. So this is A, B, C. Okay, A times C is going to be 1 times 14. What does that give me? 14 is correct. And then I'm going to list all my factors that will give me 14, starting with 1. I could do 1 times its own self, 14. Or I could do 2 times 7. Now, if you put 14 over x in your calculator, these are the only 2. Okay, you don't have to keep looking. From there, I want to add to B what number? Okay, let's start just with the 9 part. So which of those are going to add to 9? Okay, but then here's the problem. I need 2 and 7 add to 9, and I want -9. So all that you need to do is make sure you put a negative on both. Okay, so if you borrow $2 from me, and then the next day you borrow 7 more, now you owe me $9. So if it's an addition, they have to both be negative in order for you to get a negative. Okay, then from there, set up your factors. I'm going to have an x minus 2 and an x minus 7. Is my A a 1? I'm done. Was my A a 1? Yes, but what was it originally? A 4. So that 4, remember your GCF goes out here in the front. So if you took out a 4, you're just going to list it. It still goes in your final answer, But my A, when I T-charted or X-charted or whatever, okay, that was a 1 at that point. So I'm done, I just have to remember my 4. Does that make sense? Okay, we're gonna do number 11. Okay, and I just write way too big, but I'm gonna do it over here. So will you look at those numbers? And tell me what each of those can divide to. 2. Okay, divide them all by 2. So 6x4 is now a 3x4. 4 divided by 2 is now a 2. And then 10 divided by 2 is now a 5. A, B, C. Set up your chart, and then I want you to fill in your numbers. Okay, you will have to divide and slide on this one because your A is not a 1. So set up your chart for me, work it out just like the other ones that we've done. Can somebody tell me the number at the top of their chart? Okay, 15, what kind of 15? Negative. I got 1 and 15, 3 and 5. My basement number is a 2. Am I adding or subtracting? Look at your top number to tell you what to do. I need to subtract to get what number? 2, so I'm gonna pick which pair? 5 and 3, 3 and 5, very good. And then if I want my basement number to come out to be a positive 2, where should I put the minus? On the smaller number on the 3. Okay, was my A a 1? I'm done. So I'll do x minus 3 and x plus 5. But if my A is not a 1, I have to divide or slide with whatever the A was. So in this case, it was a 3. So I'm gonna put over 3 over 3. 3 divided by 3 for the first parentheses is a 1 now, but 5 can't divide, so I'm gonna push that 3 up to the front. Now it's a 3x plus 5. Is that my final answer? Okay, almost, but I still have to put what in the way front? Okay, we divided by 2, then that needs to stay right here. Okay. Does that make sense? Okay, we have one more thing to review. Okay, which is gonna be perfect squares. So if you'll turn the page one more time, perfect squares is a shortcut. Okay, I'm not gonna show you how to do it the long way today since we've already kind of covered a lot of stuff. Okay, but for perfect squares, if you have both perfect squares with a minus in the middle, you can shortcut basically to your answer. So x squared, if I take the square root, what would I get? You would just get an x. So I want you to give me 2 parentheses, and I want you to put an x in the first spot. Okay, then I want you to take the second number, which is 16, and I want you to square root it. We remember the square root of 16? 4 is correct, but I want you to do a plus 4 in one and a minus 4 in the other, because you should remember from algebra 2, whenever you square root 16, it's plus or minus 4. And then you're done. Yeah? Okay, but this shortcut only works if they're both perfect squares and you have to have a minus in the middle. So let's take a look at number 14. What is the square root of 9x squared? 3 what? 3x. Very good. Okay, then I'm going to go to my 121. I want the square root of that. Use your calculator if you don't know that one. It is 11. And remember, we do a plus or minus. Okay, plus in one, minus in the other. Now, the order that you put those in, like if you wanna put the 3x minus 11 first and the plus to come second, that doesn't matter, that's fine. Okay, all right, go down to number 15. I want to square root 4a squared. So square root. Let's do the 4 first. What's the square root of 4? So it's going to be a 2a and a 2a. Then I go to my 25, that's a b6. Let's do the number first. What's the square root of 25? Plus or minus 5. So I'm going to do a plus in one, minus in the other. And then remember that when you're square rooting, you're trying to get two things that times back to the original thing. So how many original b's did I have? 6. Then I'm trying to split them evenly. So how many will I put in each one? B3. Get the idea there? Okay, you're square rooting the number, but if it's got an exponent, you're cutting it in half. All right, let's drop down to this last row. Okay, number 17. I take a look at my numbers. Okay, can I square root 2? No, I can half it, but that's not the same, right? 2, when you square root it, you're going to get a decimal. Same with 98. Okay, but what do 2 and 98 have in common? They can both divide by what? 2. Remember, you always GCF first. Okay, it doesn't matter whether you're trying to do this shortcut, whether you're doing your AC chart. So I'm going to put up here, you always GCF first if there is one. So I'm going to GCF and divide by 2 on this and then see what I'm left with at that point. My 2x squared is now a 1x squared. What happens to my minus 98 when I divide it by 2? Close, 40, should be 49. And then I'm going to now do my perfect squares. Okay, remember that 1 is a perfect square. The square root of 1 is its own self. So my 1x squared is going to go to a 1x and a 1x. Now remember, you can write the 1 or not. It really doesn't matter. Okay, then for my 49, what's the square root of 49? Plus or minus 7. Anything else that we need to do there? Yeah, don't forget that 2 in the front. Okay. All right, last one like that. Take a look at number 18. Should I square root that right now? No. No, not if there's a GCF. What can they both divide by? 25. Okay, and they can also both divide by 5. But remember, you have to pick the biggest thing they have in common. So I'm going to divide that 25 out. What's going to happen to my 25x4? Now it's just 1x4. What about my 100 divided by 25? And then you're going to square root it from there. Okay, if I have an x to the 4th, how can I split that up when I square root it? It'll be an x squared and an x squared. Okay, then for my square root of 4, what are we going to get for that? Plus or minus 2. Am I done? Oh, no, don't forget your 25. Okay, I actually just realized as we did this, I made a mistake on one question. So turn back one page. It's an easy fix, but it happens on your homework, and so I don't want to skip over it. Okay, will you look back at number 11 that we did on this page? How many, all the other ones, this was an x squared, right? So it's an x squared in the front always, except for this one question. If it's an x to the 4, when you split into your parentheses, rather than giving them each an x, what do you think we're going to give them? An x squared. Okay, because if you started out with an x4, you can't just give them each one x, you need to give them each an x squared. So I'm going to put a squared here and here. And then I'm going to put a squared here. Okay, so make sure if it's an x4 up front, when you split into your parentheses, you have to account for that. Okay. All right, go ahead and pull out your computers, log into Delta Math, and then we're gonna do probably 2 of them together. If you would like some scratch paper, let me know and I'll bring that around. Okay, and then the question that we're gonna do is, I wanna say it's number 4. Let me actually look. Okay, so you're looking for your homework on factoring. And then we're gonna do factoring multi-step. Maybe the first one. Yeah. So this is number 3 from the top. Number 3 from the top. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is write it down and then look for your GCF. Huh? Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead and divide out your GCF and then set up your T-chart. Okay, what are you dividing by? What number? 3, I want you to change that to a -3. Here's why. What do I want my A to be in the front? To be done. A needs to be a 1, right? So if there's a -3, get rid of the whole thing. So when you GCF right now, take out a -3, okay? Uh-huh. But usually, whatever. Most of the time. Okay, so when you divide the -3, what's your new number in the front? 1x squared. What happens to my +9 if I divide it by -3? The -3x. And then what happens to my 30 if I divide it by -3? -10, very good. Okay, keep going with your chart. So my A is a 1, my C is a -10. 1 times -10 is -10. Factors for that are gonna be just 2 partners. I could have a 1 and a 10, or a 2 and a 5. Am I adding or subtracting to get the basement? Subtracting, this is what tells me that. If that's a minus, I know that I need to subtract. And I'm trying to get what number in the middle? -3. So what are we gonna pick? What numbers? Okay, these 2 right here, 2 and 5. Where will I put the negative, on the 2 side or the 5 side? The 5. Remember, if you want to keep a negative, you got to put it on the bigger of the 2 numbers. Is my A a 1? I'm done. So it'll be an x plus 2 and an x minus 5. Okay, if I type that in, it's gonna count it wrong, because what did we forget? Don't forget that -3's gotta stay. Very good. Okay, go ahead and type that one in. And then we're gonna do 2 problems below that, the quartic function. It does not. So you could put your like x plus 2 second and your x minus 5 first. Okay, last one we're gonna do together is 2 below that. Okay, it should say factoring quartics, it's the first one. Okay, go ahead and set up your ABC, set up your chart. You don't have any GCF here. Okay, because the front doesn't even have a number on it to divide out. So set up your A, your B, and your C. 2 below the one we just did. It should say factoring quartics. Find it? Okay, so set up your A, B, C, go ahead and work all the way down to your A1, your done spot. There's not. Okay. If your A is a 1, you can't really do that. Times. Oh. You wanna have minus on the 4? Should you put it on the 5? You wanna put it on the bigger number. Okay, don't type your answer in though, or else it'll probably be wrong. Okay, can you tell me what numbers you picked from the chart? 5 and 9, yeah. And then we're putting the negative on the 5 side because we want it to come out to be a -4, right? Oh, I said that wrong. Thank you. On the 9 side. So then if this is an x4, when I write my parentheses, how many do I give each one? 2. So it needs to be x squared plus 5. Don't type this in yet. And x squared minus 9. Okay, then I would ask myself, is my A a 1? I'm done? Yes, so you think, oh, let me type this in. Okay, if you have a difference of perfect squares, you can break down again. Can I square root 5? Can I square root 9? Then this one can break down one more time. So I'm going to keep my x squared plus 5 the same. Okay, this one can't do anything. So it'll be x squared plus 5. But then for this one, if it's a perfect square, what's the square root of x squared? X and x. And then what's the square root of 9? Plus or minus 3. Very good. So I'll put a plus 3 in one, minus 3 in the other. Okay. So because it says to factor it completely, that's why your -9 is going to have to break down one more time. That will only happen in the quartic questions. We just did the first one. You have one more after that where you'll have to do a second split. Okay. Last thing, and then I'm going to have you work. The very last question is cubes, and we haven't done that in your notes yet. So you can do everything up till the very last question. Don't do that yet, okay? Where do I sign it? At the bottom?
Let's touch that on the.
Don't get bigger in the morning. Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. No, because if your expert doesn't have a number on it, you can't. Now, I'll give you a little hint. Only the practice. Or if you go down here, where it's a greatest common factor. So for these top questions, it's gonna have one. Yes, sir. So if you want it to be negative now, they don't have to know. If you want it to be positive, they might write down small paper side. So you'll put it on one thing. Okay, so finish up what you're working on. And then we're gonna do just a couple more examples on the last formula and then we're done. Yeah. It's in the GCF section. What do they have in common? 5 and 7 don't have anything. They have a letter. Your GCF will be 2 by X. So your GCF can be a number, can be a letter, or it can be both. But if it's just X, that's fine. Okay. Take a look at your last page of your notes for me, please. Okay, the formula for square roots. Okay, it's super easy because it's just you give one of them a plus, you give one of them a minus. If they're perfect cubes, okay, if they're perfect cubes, the formula is not quite so easy. Okay, that's why you only have one of these on your homework. Okay, let's start with number 20. What is the cubic root of x cubed? Okay, think about that one more time. What's the cubic root of x cubed? It would just be an x. Very good. So I want you to put that your A is an X. Okay, then I want you to tell me what the cubic root of 8 is. Now, you may not know, but there's a button for cubic root in your calculator. Okay, so go to your normal screen. If you're in the table, okay, then hit second quit to get out of it. And then I think it's alpha trait. I forgot where it is. Okay, I found it. Never mind. Okay, so ready? Here's where your cubic root is. Hit the math button. And then if you go down to here, you see the one with the 3 in it. So the cubic root of 8 is 2. So these were both cubic roots. Okay, the first one came out to an X. The second one came out to a 2. Okay, then you're gonna follow the formula based on whether you started off with a plus in the middle or a minus in the middle. What did I have in the middle here? It was originally a plus. Then that means that I'm gonna use this formula because it also started with a plus in the middle. Remember, everywhere that I see an A, I'm gonna put an X. Everywhere that I see a B, I'm gonna put a 2, okay? So my first parentheses is A plus B, which means my first parentheses is X plus 2. Okay, then I'm just literally gonna go through the rest of the formula. Next, I want an A squared, which in this case is gonna be an X squared. Next, I want a minus AB together. What's my A and my B? An X and a 2, then that's a 2X, right? Okay, so minus 2X. And then my last one is supposed to be a B squared. What is my number for B? 2. And what's 2 squared? So it'll be a +4, and then you're done. So you're literally just gonna follow that formula, find both of your roots, and then just go term by term with your formula. Let's do one more from that. Let's go down to the next one. Okay, x cubed, I wanna cube root it. What's the cube root of x cubed? Still x. Okay, now let's look at my second one. I have a 216y cubed. Okay, I don't know the cubic root of 216, but we're about to find out. Okay, in your calculator, push the math button. Okay, math button, go down to your cubic root of 216. What is it? 6. Now, you'll notice that my 6 also is going to have a y with it. Because it wasn't just a 216, it was a 216y cubed, yeah? So when I go to my formula, I'm going to pick the one that had a plus in the middle of it, okay, which is this one. It originally had a plus, so I want an a plus b. That's an x plus 6y. Okay, then the next thing that came after that is I want an a squared. So now that's an x squared minus, and then an ab, I'm just going to put these together. So x times 6y is a 6xy. And then the trickiest part on this is for your plus b squared. I have to square this, then I have to do both parts of it. So what is 6 if I square it? What is 6 if I square it? 36y squared. Okay, so I want you to think about that. For the b squared, you just have to remember to do the 6 and the y for that. Okay? Let's do the cubes next to it. Okay, so right next to it, take a look at number 21. Cubic root x cubed, what are you going to get? Just an x. Cubic root the 27. Okay, put it in your calculator. What's the cubic root of 27? Okay, it is 3. Okay, but this time, what was the sign in the middle of your perfect cubes? I kind of scribbled on it, but what number was here? It was a minus. So instead of me using the top formula that started with a plus, I'm going to use the bottom formula that starts with a minus. Okay, however, you'll notice that the formulas are almost the same. I'm going to start off instead of an a plus b with an a minus b. So that'd be an x minus 3. Okay, and then let's keep going. So after a minus b, what do I do next? A squared, which will be x squared. This time I want a plus ab, so I'm just going to put these together. What's x times 3? Plus 3x. And then my last one is a b squared on its own. What's 3 squared on its own? That would be 9. Okay. So it's a squared, put them together, and then b squared. Okay, last one we're going to do, let's just do 23. Okay, cubic root your 8x cubed. In your calculator, what's the cubic root of 8? We found it earlier. It is a 2, but this time it's going to have an x with it. Okay, find the cubic root of 1 in your calculator for me, please. Comes out to be 1 again. And then am I following the plus in the middle or the minus in the middle for the rule? Minus in the middle is going to have a minus on your a minus b. So in this case, it'll be a 2x minus 1. And then remember, it's that squared, then both of them together, then that squared. You're just going to go one thing at a time. When I square the 2x, remember you have to square both of them. So what's the 2x if I square it? What would the whole thing be? 4x squared. Very good, because the 2 squared gives me the 4, and then I have to remember to do the x as well. Okay, then if I times these together, what's 2x times 1? That'd still be a 2x. And then for my last term, I want b squared by itself. What's 1 squared? 1 times 1 is still 1. Okay? So now you can do that very last question on your homework, okay? You still have about 8 minutes to finish. Sure.